everybody. October 11th, Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Ready to kick this one off. Thanks for joining us here. We're here a couple times a week and after Michigan games, talking about the latest in Michigan football. And it puts us right in the middle of the week, game week, Michigan and IU. And today, things that we will talk about is that Michigan has played 6 games. So that means for the regular season, they are halfway home to the midway point, and we'll look at how they have done, where they're going, kind of take stock in where they're at the midway point. Also, it is exactly, let's see, today is October 11th. Michigan is playing Penn State on November 11th. So it's a month away from Michigan traveling to Happy Valley to take on James Franklin's Nittany Lions. And James Franklin had something to say yesterday. We think it's about Michigan. We'll talk about Franklin's folly. Well, we'll start with it being game week and Indiana being on tap with the Hoosiers. I do want to remind everyone that, if you at any point you sit around and say, I want more Michigan coverage. I want better Michigan coverage. I want good Michigan coverage. Well, I'm here to tell you that the Maize and Blue Review is the place to be. Go there today and sign up at michigan.rivals.com. Recruiting, transfer portal, feature stories, it is there. Give us a chance. We think you'll like what you see there. And then there is a posting board with a community that is all day and all night looking at Michigan topics or other topics and then comparing them to something with Michigan. It goes on all the time there. It's a lot of fun. So I would like to see you over there, the Maize and Blue Review today. All right. So here it is, the long and short of things. We get ready for Saturday. Michigan's a big 33.5 point favorite. I don't know how much that scares you. I'm talking about the big line. If you're thinking about them covering it, Michigan's been putting up a lot of points now, not allowing very many. And I don't see any reason that is going to change coming up this Saturday. You can say, Indiana is giving Michigan. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I mean, there is that particular point, like, anything can happen. It is a big noon Fox game, which has its positives and negatives. One of the positives is the broadcast crew, Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft. I like all three of them. The negatives is that they cut the way too many commercials, and it affects you. You kind of get, you're used to it. We understand that even though you have to pay for your TV and you have to pay for cable, that, you're going to have to sit through some commercials. We get that. Fox, as though, is pressed it into so many that it affects your TV watching. And it's really noticeable when you go to another network and you're watching it. Look, they have commercials too, but they don't have as many as Fox, and it's noticeable. So make an adjustment, Fox, would you? It's painful, even though we like the broadcast crew. And I don't know if there's any other complaints, just the commercials. That's it. And the amount of them. We get, you guys want to make a whole lot of money and everything else, but we're tired of it. Maybe we, I don't know what we could do. Start, not the frequenting the places that you put up there. Is that going to work? Boycott? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm just saying it, just what everybody else is thinking. Scott is thinking the former IU coach, Lee Corso, would say that Indiana has a chance. JP, we hope you are doing well. We know he was under the weather last week. And P. Maximus is saying that Harbaugh said we are bowl eligible. I don't remember him saying that. But all right. I mean, it's true, right? So if you're 6-6, you're bowl eligible. Let's see. GC, by the time the game and the commercials and the stadium will be a swimming pool. Is it because it's supposed to rain on Saturday? That's where that's coming from. For a second, I was like, wait a second. Maybe I'm missing out on that. There you go. Richard, remembering the old days when cable said no commercials and at least 30 channels. Steve, the commercials or Peacock. Yeah, well, even if it's on Peacock, I mean, there's still commercials. I mean, that's the one thing about Peacock. So, I think about some of the movie channels, like some of those, I don't know, like Hulu. I had Hulu before without commercials, and they have it with commercials, and it's got, um, mm, they're shorter commercials, and they're not. They're kind of some of them like off-brand commercials, and it's not as bad. But yeah, it's a lot nicer. You get a movie channel and you just watch a movie. When you're used to just watching movie after movie and movie and series after series, and it just fires it back up like on Netflix. You don't even have to. You don't even have to do anything on Netflix. You just sit there and it's like in like 10 seconds, it fires up the next one. You're like, oh, I'm good. I'll just watch a couple minutes. Then you watch the whole one and you keep going. But then you like watch on I don't know AMC or something, and they take these 5-minute commercials. Like, wow, man, this is tough. It's tough. It's tough. Those kind of things when you're talking about commercials. I don't know. IU, it's I'm ready for the back half of the slate. I'm ready. Like I'm enjoying it. Like I don't want to just I am interested in Saturday. I was gonna say I can't wait, but it's Michigan. It's noon. Michigan's the number 2 team in the country. They've looked really good. I don't have like I'd try to complain. I mean, I don't try to complain, but I can complain just like anyone else. So I'm complaining about the commercials, but as far as Michigan, I don't have any complaints. They look pretty good from top to bottom, and they got some big games coming up in October at the end, and then obviously in November and beyond. So it's about to happen. So I don't have a lot of complaints, but with IU, we say, well, you're taking them lightly. I guess I'm taking them. Michigan's a 33.5-point favorite, and I've watched a little bit of IU. I watched the second half. They look like they did a pretty good job against they did do a pretty good job against the Ohio State wide receivers in the opener back in early September. The game against Louisville, they played all right in that game. It was a loss, and they didn't play so hot at Maryland. Giving up 44 points, 2-3 overall. Their 2 wins against Akron in overtime, and then Indiana State, Larry Bird's school. And if you'd have asked me before I put that up there, does Indiana State have a football team? I might have been like, I wasn't 100% sure. I guess I am 100% sure now that it says that Indiana beat them 41-7, but they haven't had a win in the Big Ten here. And, so they played Louisville tough, and they hung in there with Ohio State. So, what I took away, again, was how they did against the Ohio State wide receivers in that first game. And they've got an excellent returner, and they've also included him in the offense. I mean, one spectacular player. So, it's a Big Ten game. So there's that part. So that's my takeaway thinking about IU and where they're at. Let's see what the people have to say about Indiana. Mr. Jones is saying, did you hear Indiana said about Michigan athletes? I don't know. That didn't make any sense, Mr. Jones, to me. So maybe you can clarify what that was. Scott saying that Indiana played Louisville tough. There you go. Mr. Jones said, he said we are as good as are and ready to play again. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Sometimes you talk to text, it doesn't work or whatever else, or you get your fingers crossed over there. I'm not one to criticize an error when typing in, but I don't get it. So I can't really say anything because I don't understand what you're about. Well, so Michigan is 6-0, and you can look to the BG game for JJ McCarthy, where he had the turnovers and how Michigan played a little sloppy in that game. Yeah, I mean that's true. And I was listening to a college football podcast today, and the one comment was that out of the top 15 teams, all 14 teams have a better win than Michigan, than number 2 Michigan. And It's true. The part with the schedule, that part's true. I don't know, like, there's no real reason to, get upset about it. Like, Michigan had this schedule last year. They used it to their advantage, and they had a really good year. And they went through it pretty easy this year. And so far, they haven't had a chance to really, play anybody any good. So you have to take um, that criticism. Now, it's really easy where people obviously go overboard. If this was what Michigan did all the time, that's what people act like Michigan never plays anybody. And the truth is that Michigan, if you go over the last 10, 15, 20 years, that they have played a tougher non-conference schedule than anybody in the country. There's no doubt about that. It's like, go through it. It's there. And the SEC teams, it's always this thing, they have 4 games. And so, but they'll schedule 3 of them, as bad as Michigan this last year and this year. And so they don't have anything to say about it. And then, oh yeah, we've looked at the next 5 years of schedules, and with Michigan, with Texas, and Oklahoma, and they got Notre Dame down the line. And then you look at with Washington and Oregon and USC, coming in. Michigan's playing all of them. They're going to play the toughest schedule over the next 5 years. So it doesn't matter. Like, is there a point in that Michigan hasn't played anybody yet? And they won't probably until even another month. With all due respect to Indiana, Michigan State, and Purdue. Yeah. So there it is. That's right. I mean, I don't obsess about it. And, those teams, if you go back from Alabama to Georgia to other teams that have won national championships, I don't remember at the end people going back and saying, "Oh, you know what? They played kind of a light non-conference slate, or they're 3 easy." Now, that doesn't really happen. So, people who try to prick you and troll you, I guess, is the best thing. There's no reason to get upset about that. I saw we're going to get to James Franklin. People got really upset about it. I understand, and then we're going to talk about that in a second. But here we go with when you get to the halfway point, you think, okay, what if you just take the stats and just double them up from some players, and you can say, okay, what kind of season would that be? We'll go with J.J. McCarthy, who has thrown for 1,290 yards and 11 touchdowns and had those 3 interceptions all in one game against BG. And you double it up, JJ comes away with 22 touchdowns, 6 picks, and over 2,500 yards. Now, the schedule is going to get more difficult. It's just talked about in the second half. If the 22 TDs, give me 20 TDs and then just give me one more interception in the back, and I'll feel pretty good. I really won't. I don't know if JJ cares. I don't know if you care. I don't know if anybody cares, but if there was one part of it, yeah, just, throw one more pick. And last year he was pretty good at that. And so, and I think he's learned a valuable lesson in this non-conference schedule, just like he did in the college football playoff. Keep those picks down. And, JJ, I'll give JJ an A. JJ looks good. And yeah, he didn't against Bowling Green. I'll give you that. But when you have a QB, we watch a lot of QBs, and we're always have them under the microscope, the spotlights on them, and all of that. And I think about some of the guys in the pros, like Josh Allen 2 years ago. Had this great season. He's this giant runner, bowl people over, throw the ball to the moon. But then the last 2 years, he get a little reckless when he ran the ball, and didn't have the ultimate success. Mahomes doesn't seem like he does anything wrong, so there's really no knocking him. But like all of the QBs, and like look at Lamar Jackson right now. Lamar Jackson, got the big contract, and it's like Lamar Jackson not having the greatest year. Coming back to more of a whatever, how he runs, and throwing, all of that. McCarthy, if he was just this is what I like about J.J. McCarthy. If McCarthy was just a pocket passer, like he wasn't that mobile, he would be a really good quarterback. He's got a great arm, and he's the ball comes out of his, he's got a, and he spins it well. Ball comes out of his hands well, and he's on target, on time. Those are very catchable football. The air under it, all of those kind of things. You really like him if he was just sitting back there and didn't move around. Meanwhile, he runs about a 4.40. He's pretty elusive. And if he wasn't all that good from the pocket and was like more of a running QB, like we've seen some of running QBs that aren't as great with their accuracy, he would still be pretty good. He would be a good running quarterback. So you combine these two things, and that's where you get everything that you're looking for. He's got all of that, like his makeup, like his mentality, like what I see from him. The bump in the road against BG looks like it was just that, and the cool head that he has on his shoulder from meditation, from cold plunges, and things that I've never done a cold plunge. Sometimes I turn the shower down to cool for like 30 seconds. I'm like, I can't handle it. You'd be pretty tough. But I just think all that helps him. He does it, for his mentality, as a QB, and everybody likes him and all that. So great. Michigan's got a great one, and we can sit around talking about the second half and what Michigan has going for them, and that's what we're doing right now. McCarthy, they got a good one, and they've got one that can win it all. Now, first thing, we're talking about any football team. You might say, what kind of head coach? All right, let's go there. What kind of quarterback would be, the second question if it wasn't the first question. Michigan's doing well there. Their coach, these last 2 years, it took him 6 years. And yeah, I was, even at the end, you understood that it might have been, if he can't get it done, nobody can. But what a story. He turns things around, and, now he's got it everywhere, anything that you want. I know people talk about recruiting. I mean, you got a point there, but I could come back with the transfer report. Michigan, where they're at sitting right now, is it the catbird seat? Do you have to win a championship? I mean, they're sitting pretty obviously right now, but is it a championship? Of course. I mean, but they're in the mix for that. There's no doubt. There's nobody arguing that. You might want to argue schedule or whatever else, but they're sitting in a really nice spot, and the coach is just like, you think about going into big time games, and you walk in there, and having Harbaugh on Michigan's side is, that game plan wise, coaching wise, there's nobody out there. I don't care who it is on the other side. And no, because he doesn't have the championship, you're going to put Kirby Smart and you put Nick Saban there. You might want to, I don't know what else you'd want to put in there. A couple others, but there's, you're going to be four. He's going to be in the top 4 or 5. So they're the top two things, they have it really going right now. And this is a surprise to everyone except the people that watch this podcast. Roman Wilson has 22 catches for 382 yards and 8 scores just midway through the season. If you doubled that up, I don't think he's going to get 16 touchdowns. I thought that he could get the double-digit touchdowns this season. I thought that was, I don't know if it was pretty obvious, but when I listened to everybody, there was, I don't know if it was Athlon's. I think it was Athlon's. It was either Athlon's or Lindy's. I was talking about how much I liked Roman Wilson, and somebody came in and said, Athlon's doesn't even have him in his, preseason, top, 4th team, all Big Ten. He wasn't even in the 4th team, all Big Ten. That's an error. Whoever was making that, that was, an oversight. And, he's having an exceptional season. He is a wide receiver 1, and he's as good as anyone in the country. Pro Football Focus, whatever you think of them, one of their things that they grade is how a receiver does in single coverage. They have PFF, I'm talking about, Roman Wilson graded as their highest wideout in single coverage this season. They put a 95.7 grade to it. Okay, that sounds pretty good. He's good. The grade is good for Roman Wilson. We've watched the games. We, saw the catch against Nebraska. We know how fast he is. And the question was he going to be able to stay healthy? That's a question that every football player has to deal with. But if you have one and then you have another, well, then, that's going to be something that people wonder about. That's in there. And, he's been healthy and he looks great. And, Michigan has a wide receiver one. If I had to evaluate, if somebody asked me, hey, what's Michigan better at? What do you think they're worse? Your expectations? Where are they midway through the season? Sorry, that would be the question. And I would say, even though I was very high on Roman Wilson and Colston Loveland and Kojo, a lot of people are like, whatever the narrative was, it was there. Michigan just doesn't have the pass catchers. And, I didn't believe that myself. But they're better than, at this point, they've performed better than even I thought they would. And I think the running game, which was great last year, and I think Blake Corum is great, and I think Donovan Edwards is great, and the offensive line, which I think can be great, I don't think it's been great. The running game and the offensive line has been pretty good, but there's room for improvement there. I don't know if there's room for improvement with the wide receivers or the pass catchers. Maybe you would say, you want to see a little bit more from Loveland. All right. You want to spread it around to some others. Okay. You don't want to see Kojo drop a ball. Once in a while you're going to drop one. But this is it. When you have 6 games and you're just smashing the opponent, these are the kind of things you do. Hey, let's have 300 yards rushing. Let's see no drops, no interceptions. Let's see perfection. Do you strive for protection or perfection, knowing that you're never going to get it? And yet, Michigan has been exceptional in all these games. BG, not so much, but that's where I'm sitting right now if we talk about it. Let's take some of the feedback and let's just see what the people are thinking about midway through here and where we are at. Let's see. P. Maximus. How do I feel our secondary moving Mikey to corner and us having 3 safeties and Makari Page in the slot? How would I feel about that? Well, I know that Michigan has talked about this, Sainristil can do that, but I think Sainristil is best as a slot cover. That's a very difficult position. I know you're talking about Page doing it, but I think that's where Sainristil is his best. Do I think he would be a fine corner? I think that he can play it and he has that versatility, but I think he's best as a slot guy. And so, having a cornerback too, whether it's going to be Josh Wallace, whether it's going to be Keyshawn Harris, Amarian Walker, are those the 3? Jaden McBurrows, there would be 4. Jair Hill, there's 5 out of those 5. What am I going to say? Do I think they're going to be okay? I do think they're going to be okay. You like to have all 11 pieces out there and think every one of these players are the greatest players. There's going to be a position or two that they're all not going to be great. Like Will Johnson, the other side's great. Teams are going to be throwing at these guys. So, they've got a lot of talent over there, and nothing's going to help those guys the edges and the defensive tackles getting to the quarterback. I think they can win a championship with the personnel they have. And can they do what you're talking about? Yes, but I think what would be best for them ultimately would be to have one of those guys, whether it's Wallace or whoever, emerge. Does it have to? Yes, you would like to have one person emerge and be over there where you feel really good about them. A little Dan Quayle, will he be at the game? I don't know. Here's Mr. Jones again. He said Indiana athletes are as good as Michigan, and he's ready to play the game. You're talking about Lee Corso? Look, if you're taking Lee Corso seriously at this point, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I haven't taken Lee Corso. I haven't taken Lee Corso, serious in 20 years. So whatever Lee Corso says, a guy that coached at Indiana, uh, I'm not taking any. I'm happy that he can go out there and still do the job. So that's good. But I'm not taking anything that seriously that Lee Corso has to say. Yeah, Amarian Walker and Jair Hill will be involved soon. Yeah, they're out there. P. Maximus is talking about having trouble with OSU. Page can't cover Fleming or Ibuka in the slot. Yeah, well, look, Ohio State's got great wide receivers, and that's going to be a tough test for Michigan. So they could have some trouble. I don't think Michigan's going to shut out Ohio State. I think that the Buckeyes could put some points on the board, and it's going to be a tough game. But I think Michigan can win that game. I like where the game's being played. I like how Michigan's defense has performed, and yeah, that's going to be the big test at the end. It's a long way, to Ohio State. Who knows who's going to be available and who's playing better? I mean, if that game was this Saturday, if the Michigan Ohio State game was Saturday, I think Michigan, they would be favored in the game. I would like them to win the game, but my breakdown would be that I think Michigan can control the line of scrimmage. I like Michigan on both sides of the ball. I think Michigan's offensive line can move the defensive line for Ohio State, and I think the Michigan's defensive line and certainly their front seven can attack OSU. And obviously, if it was this week, Travion Henderson, he would be a question mark. Who knows if he's going to be back? It would be a little bit like last year. I would like Michigan. I mean, without hesitation, picking them. So as we sit here right now, sure. I mean, Ohio State, I would rank them. I mean, they've gone on the road and won a big game. So they went to the champion, or they were in the college football playoff last year. Damn near went to damn near won it all. So there it is. Here's somebody else, I think, talking about Lee Corso again. I've made my statement about that. Richard saying, check out a Jake Butt interview with the Michigan guards. They were talking about adjustments, and it was fascinating. He says those big guys are smarter than most people think. Between offensive linemen in general, they have to know a lot. They've got to work well, not just in tandem, but with the other four guys that are up there. Know the play calls. Center is the toughest, and that's a tough position to play. And yeah, those guys who have been around, and those guys are pro. What Michigan has here, it's why a lot of people, myself included, thought that Michigan was going to do well this year. And we talk about recruiting, and Michigan has two guys that are going to be in the pros for a long time, and Keegan and Zinter, on the inside of their offensive line. Like, there are NFL teams that would like to have those two guys. These guys could be in the NFL right now starting. Yeah, they're that good. Yeah, they got it all. I mean, you listen to them talk. They're big. They're tough. They're smart. And they've got it all. There's no weakness when it comes to those guys. I mean, they're captains on the team, and they're solid. And Michigan's in a great spot having the two guards that they do. It's one of the reasons. I mean, we could sit around listing. We could probably make up 100 reasons, and however you could say, well, their whole offensive line, that would cover everything. But you could say Zitter and Keegan as one, the combination at guards, and that would be an easy one to put in a top 10 list. McCarthy, Corum, Will Johnson, you start going through just the single players. I'll make those two the guard position on offense. Give that to me in the top 5. That's where I'm at. Michigan is a road team, except when they play in Ann Arbor. Okay, I'm with you. P. Maximus still doesn't like JJ lowering his shoulder on the way out of bounds. Yeah, he doesn't lower his shoulder on the way out of bounds. He does done at the goal line. No, I can't tell you that I like that myself, but what are you going to do? And now that you're into the back half of the season, I would like to see it, you know, just do it against the big time opponents. Don't do it at all. Let's come to an agreement here, PMax. Do it, but don't get hurt. How about that? That's what we're talking about when it comes down to JJ. It's a tough game, football like that. He's taken a lot of strides when it comes to getting down, stepping out of bounds. If there's 10 things that you would like to see him do when it comes down to when he has the ball and he starts running, slide down after he gets the first down, step out of bounds. Those are the top two after he gets the first down. That's the last hurdle. He also, I forgot, it was a game or two ago where, he had the first down when he ran up the middle. And, I'd say, hey, it would have been nice. Once you get the first down, go ahead and slide down. But no, he wanted the contact. He searched it out. I get that. I think other people understand it too. And then you just you hold your breath and hope they're going to be okay. Tim needs JJ at 21 for his season prop bet. I can understand that. Richard likes how he throws the ball in stride. Says he's the best quarterback we've ever had, Brady included at the college level. Best quarterback that Michigan has ever had. Well, he's better than Brady. I'll agree with you on that. I mean, see what happens in the pros, but he, is he better than Greasy, who took Michigan to an undefeated season? Yes. Henson, start thinking about, I'm a big Henson guy. It reminds me a lot of Henson and what Henson can do. And those two games that Henson lost at Purdue and Northwestern, neither of those games were his fault. It's too bad. It's also too bad they didn't come back for his senior season. But, he's up there. He's up there. Rick Leach, I think, might get up there. The Minnesota play-by-play announcer said that JJ is deceptively fast. Well, Harbaugh has said a couple times he thinks that he's a 4.4. I mean, 4.4 is pretty fast. Like, I don't know, what's Lamar Jackson? Like, Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is the fastest quarterback in the NFL. So just being fast. I mean, I'll take Lamar Jackson over Daniel Jones, and it's the moves as well. Yeah, JJ, because he's such a good passer, maybe you don't think about him, being this, excellent runner. Throws the ball like Stafford, and he doesn't run like Lamar Jackson, but who does he run like? A smaller Josh Allen? You don't want him like jumping up in the air and lowering his shoulder. He throws the ball to me like, if I can I combine two players, an Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford? I mean, that's lofty comparison. He reminds me when he throws the football of Carson Palmer, back in the day. And I think about Palmer just throwing the ball, but then when he runs. And he goes Mahomes. He runs like Mahomes. He runs like Mahomes because he tries to play. Tries Mahomes the way he runs around, throws the ball. I mean, that's the game now. I mean, I don't want to say a poor man's, but he plays the game like Patrick Mahomes. That's where I'm at with him. That's pretty. He plays like the game like the best player in the NFL right now. And so does Caleb Williams. That's why people like these guys so much. These guys can throw it. These guys can run it. These guys can run it, and they can make plays while they're off platform, falling down. They can do it all. Richard loves the winning streak. He's happy the pundits are overlooking us. I'll take your word that the pundits are overlooking us. I mean, Michigan's number 2 in the country, so I don't know. Are the pundits overlooking them? I think the pundits are taking a look at Michigan at number 2, and they're saying, they hadn't played anybody, which, is fair. If you have to talk about college football all the time and you're sitting there and you say, okay, let's look at the teams. So you watch them and then you see who they play. And a big part of it is who they play. And Michigan doesn't have that part. So, the pundits are going to say, hey, all of the other teams have better wins than Michigan, which is true. It's not it's nothing to get upset about. Michigan's time is coming. It'll happen. Winter is coming. Old Timer's been looking at the forecast for Saturday. High % chance of rain. Is that true? I don't live in Michigan anymore. I don't really look at the long range forecast. No, true enough, I'm not going to the game on Saturday. I'll be watching it from home and then doing the post game here. So, but let's wait till Friday and start speculating about the rain, because we can talk about all the rain we want. It can be bright and sunny like it is right now on Saturday. But yeah, I've heard people talking about rain on Saturday. What that would mean to me if I was a Michigan fan and I wanted to go to the game, that you might be able to grab some tickets for this for pretty cheap, especially the closer we get and the more it looks like it's going to be rain. I mean, if you don't have a problem because the ticket's going to be cheaper, snap them up. You got a chance to go tailgate. Probably won't be able to go to the golf course though if it's raining. That would be a negative for me, since I like to go to the golf course and I like to tailgate there. I like to bring my bocce ball set and go out and for an hour or so, get out there a little bit. Nothing like the fairways and some bocce out there. Old Timer adding that we have some really good young players in the secondary that are going to be really good. Yeah, well, if you think, with Rod Moore not playing in those first 3 games, and you had Quentin Johnson, who's a senior, so he's not a young guy. He just hasn't played. He's played well. Like if Quentin Johnson was a freshman, you'd say, wow, this guy's got a great future. He's played well. And Keon Sabb, is the other one. I think also when you get further down and later in the game, we know that DJ Waller has been out there a lot, and he's been identified by the coaches. And we see Jair Hill getting some run. I've heard the players, not so much these last 3 games, but, in fall camp, they talked a lot about the kid that was at Notre Dame, Hillman, Brandon Hillman. Yeah, they got some players back there. Jalen Lucas. All right. So a player from Indiana says that they can play with Michigan. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to, fire everything up, like an Indiana kid is, trying to fire his team up that they can play with Michigan. Yeah, I'm not going to get too riled up about that. But look, use anything you can, to get fired up, if that's something can happen. 95% chance of rain in Michigan. Is it that bad? I mean, there must be. I haven't looked. There must be just this gigantic portion that's coming in, and it's going to be here, so it can happen. Well, go get those tickets then, if you want to go. Michigan will be fine. Like you say, Michigan. One thing they have is they're an all-weather team. Gets really hot, they can play in that. Windy, they can play in that. Rain, they can handle it. They got a running game and they got a defense. They'll be okay there. Let's go to Mr. Martini. OSU can pass for 350, but if the Michigan D-line holds their rushing yards under 100, I'll take Michigan. Yeah, I don't know, 350 sounds a little bit on the high side. Shoelace would have been a Heisman candidate with this offensive line. I agree. Michigan Lover 12 is saying that Amarian Walker's got to be that number 2 corner. Yeah, I'm not. Again, I like people want to be down on Josh Wallace or whoever cornerback 2 is, and saying I'm not down on the corners. Look, they're going to get thrown at a lot because you got Will Johnson on the other side. So there's going to be a lot of footballs coming their way. They've got a lot, if they didn't have anybody over there, you'd say, oh man, once in a while you're going to get beat. Don't be down. Don't be down on Josh Wallace. Don't be down on if it's Keyshawn Harris out there. Oh, he was a walk-on. So what? They're going to be all right that way. All right, we'll get a couple more, and then we'll get to what James Franklin had to say. Here's a question. If Jim Harbaugh stays at U of M, how long do you think it will take him to catch Bo for the all-time win list? Let's see. Richard answering this, saying Bo had 143, Jim has 54. Michael saying Bo has 194. Bo coached 20 years at Michigan. What's this, 8 years for Harbaugh? Yeah, they're playing more games, though, and you get the college football playoffs, so a little bit more like that. A long time. It takes, 8-9 years at the quickest. That's if he's, winning at this spectacular pace. So I think Bo is safe on the win side. I would like to see, you could say, hey, how long would you like to see Jim Harbaugh coach? 20 years sounds like great number to me. A couple national championships in there. A lot of the talk about the contract this week, and people are really excited because what's best for Michigan is if Jim Harbaugh stays as the coach at Michigan for all the reasons that everyone knows. The one thing that I am wondering about is this, and if they signs a new contract, everybody's going to be a little excited. The first thing I'm going to do is say, what's the buyout? Always going to be the question. Jim Harbaugh could be the highest paid coach in college football history. He could have his assistants have the highest salary pool in college football. What else is there? Highest paid coach, highest paid assistants, boom. And I don't think anybody, he deserves it. His time is now, and what he's done the last 2 years, pay the man his money. But is it going to be a light buyout? Because, nobody cares if he gets paid more money than anybody else in college football, but still, if you get to the offseason, there is the argument that, well, if an NFL team wants somebody, they'll just get him anyways because they're billionaires. Sure, but if I don't know what the highest buyout out there is on a coach, but if Jim Harbaugh also has the highest salary, but also has the highest buyout, you feel great. So I'll be interested to see where that's at. That's my thing. He can make as much money as he wants. The assistants can get as much money as they want. Michigan deserves all of that to keep it going. The buyout to me is going to be the first thing that I'm going to take a look at. Everybody be all excited about, I get $13 million. He's the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. He's the highest paid. All right. Okay. What's the buyout? My guess is it's going to be, that's the hammering out that's going on. I know a lot of people are like, Ward Manuel. Okay. Ward Manuel, he's involved. The regents are involved. They finally, the regents, the president, and Manuel, and then Harbaugh on Monday said, so they all are lined up. The log jam is opened up. So now they just have to get the signature. So they've had a long time here. How do you think that conversation's going? What's the holdup? That would be the question. I think that is the holdup. That's my guess. Not Harbaugh. And, whatever Harbaugh thinks, he had the NCAA and this is where he's got the power. Maybe he'll say, how about you give me $20 million? Hear me out. How about you give me $20 million a year and $7 million of that goes in some 5-star fund, 5-star collective that we can start, pulling in the top talent across the country. Who says no to that? Well, you can say Michigan, like, oh, I got $20 million. But I don't know. It's Harbaugh listening to him right before the season where he was like, advocating for his players. And, he said he wanted to see him, sharing the money, because look at what they're doing, and if you're a football player, and if you look at the money that football generates, you understand. It's like, man, these guys are the golden goose. What he didn't say is, yeah, but how do you still have to pay for rowing and field hockey, so those things are still happening. Could Harbaugh be like, let's get this, whatever he wants with that, the pool or the collective, that could be another part of this. If you're going to pay $100 million for facilities, let's go ahead and push some of that over. Let's get that into a collective. I mentioned that podcast that I was listening to earlier. They were talking about this very point. They were saying, like, in the pros, Patrick Mahomes gets paid a lot more than Andy Reid. No, we understand you got prospects. I don't think we're talking about paying, like for Jaden Davis, the Michigan commitment, like, giving him $10 million before he ever throws a pass or anything like that. I don't know. And it's still a little wild, but maybe whatever Harbaugh feels about the collectives, that's going to be part of the negotiations as well. I don't know. Just, some of my thoughts, some of the things that I've been thinking about here. Michigan will probably have to, we'll put something ironclad with a Mel Tucker clause. I think coaches move. There's already those, whatever they call them, moral clauses in there. But I think you might, you learn some. I think putting a Tucker type, some kind of Tucker clause in there is sounds like a good, smart thing to do. In there, Mr. Martini. Well, a guy that is getting paid a lot to coach had some things to say this week, and it's James Franklin. And today is October 11th, and on November 11th, Michigan will be up at Happy Valley to take on James Franklin. And James Franklin talked about scheduling weak non-conference opponents, and he said, quote, "There's a team in this conference that's buying out a ton of game contracts to go in another direction." He added that you got to do what you possibly can to give yourself a chance to be undefeated. Well, when you read this, I don't think he's talking about Indiana. I think he's talking about Michigan. So he could have just said, Michigan, let's see how it reads if this fires you up. If it's Michigan. Michigan is buying out a ton of game contracts to go in another direction. Michigan's got to do whatever they possibly can to give themselves a chance to be undefeated. Well, these last 2 years, what Michigan has done, I think you take the slings and arrows. I enjoyed last year. I'm enjoying this year. The part, again, that Michigan, the previous 20 years, however far you want to go back, Michigan is up there with the very top teams in college football annually with the toughest schedule in the non-conference. And in the next 5 years, they're right there again. And, oh, yeah, they get the toughest overall schedule. So that they've got these 2 years and that we've seen a bunch of SEC teams do this exact thing. You tell James Franklin, who cares? Now, James Franklin, who, if he loses to Michigan, like there was only 2 years ago, James Franklin had positioned himself pretty well. And if you were ranking coaches in the Big Ten, you actually had to put James Franklin in front of Jim Harbaugh. Their records were pretty similar, and yet Franklin had beat Ohio State. Regardless of what you think of Franklin as a coach, I mean, the records, I mean, that's where I had it 2 years ago. But, 2 years and, taking one like he did last year, and now, this game upcoming, we'll see. But I don't think it's a very smart move by James Franklin. Like, this is something that, will rile Michigan up. I know it riles the fans up, obviously. Anything that you could possibly construe will rile fans up. So fans are going to be riled up. And so Michigan giving the other team fuel is stupid. So I think this was a stupid move by James Franklin. This added on with his team's tunnel behavior last year of throwing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and then kind of crying about the restriction. He's on Michigan's list. And here's the list, like coaches and teams that, do it the right way. And then there's this list. Ryan Day is on that list. Every Ohio State coach, if Ohio State's on that list, Penn State with James Franklin is, now on that list. He was on there before with the tunnel talk, but now maybe Franklin figures, they're already pissed off at me. What the hell? Let's just throw this on there. But I don't think that's smart by Franklin. But he did it, and there it is. Michigan, will they use it? Of course. That is fuel. Talking about Michigan's non-conference slate. And again, over the next 5 years, I don't think there's going to be a team that's going to play a tougher schedule than Michigan. And over the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, previous to these last two, I don't think there's been a team that's played a tougher schedule than Michigan. So 2 years. It's there, and they used it to their advantage. I've said many times, I would rather have a tougher schedule than an easy schedule, but there's no reason to, I can debate it or arguing it, but the people that like it because they have seen other teams in the past that have had success and win the championships and, get into the college football playoff, that they've manufactured an easy schedule. And that's been a piece of it. And that's a pretty good argument. Hey, you could talk about it all off season. Oh, we got this. We got Oklahoma. Or let's take that with Michigan's playing Texas. Woo, it's a great, and it is. It's a great game to talk about. Tickets will be the highest, going for the highest ever. It's going to be the greatest game of all time, the anticipation. And yet there'd be a lot of people that say, hey, I'd rather have that be, Texas Albion or some Texas State. If they could, because they just want the win. They don't care about that. They just want a W. And, Michigan could lose to Texas next year. And so there's the argument. And, Richard's like me. He wants to see a gauntlet, but that's all right. Mr. Jones, the media is mostly Ohio people, and they hate to see Michigan's success. Yeah. I do think if you just took this part out, the first 4 words, and it says Ohio people hate to see Michigan's success, I would agree with that. I don't agree that the media is mostly Ohio people. But, hey, Mr. Jones, it sounds fun. Michael says Lame Brain James is already shaken, and he hasn't even played us or OSU, refuses to have a rival. Richard saying something about Franklin. Last year said he cannot compete with Michigan's offensive line or defensive line. That's true. That's true. Cupcakes sharpen records, steel sharpen steel. Yeah, well, regardless of what you think about it, it's over after this year. You do have Texas. And then Michigan will have Oklahoma. So 24, Texas comes to Ann Arbor. In 25, Michigan goes to Oklahoma. In 26, Oklahoma comes back to Ann Arbor. And then in 27, Michigan is going to Texas. Then if we really want to look at the schedule, that 2033. Remember, 2033. We're only 10 years away from that. Michigan, Notre Dame. By then, will Michigan play Notre Dame in a college football playoff before that? Maybe. No. Texas, Oklahoma, Texas, and then Notre Dame down the line. All right. Now you can say, what's Michigan going to do with their slate between 27 and 33? From 28 to 32, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. What are they going to do in those 5 years when they still have Oregon, Washington, UNC? They might play a schedule like they did this year. And, well, I'd be saying, I don't know how much complaining we need to do about that. James Franklin might be a TV analyst by then. And, he might be talking about the tunnel and Michigan's non-conference slate. And he'll say, man, I opened my mouth back in 2023 and they came in and punched me right in my mouth. They came in and beat us 30-0. I'll never forget it. James, if you could go back, would you not add fuel to the fire like you did 2 years in a row? Having your players throw sandwiches at Michigan in their tunnel and then, talk about it and then talk about Michigan's schedule. Do you think that affected it? No, what affected it is we couldn't run the ball. And we threw a bunch of interceptions. And we couldn't stop them defensively. That was the biggest factor. That's it. All right. You know what? I think the last game that I have been to in the Big House was the rain night game against Notre Dame. It's been a few years now. They do have time to chicken out, but that'll be one. If I was looking, saying, what game? This year's Michigan-Ohio State game, would that be a bad game to be at? It would be pretty nice, thinking about it. So after. This can get you a little bit excited. I felt it myself. You got Saturday's game affordable compared to the rest of the games because the threat of rain and the opponent. But then you think about this will be, besides Ohio State, the last day game for Michigan because Michigan is playing Purdue. That is a night game right now at the Big House. Michigan, Purdue, 7:30. Coming up after Michigan State, then the bye, then Purdue, at Penn State, at Maryland. Ooh, those last 3 games. At Penn State, noon. At Maryland, Ohio State. It's all there. It's lined up. It's ready to go. Richard thinks Michigan 6-0 on to 15-0. I'm not going to argue too much about that. Thanks so much for watching. If you are thinking about more Michigan coverage, you can join up with the Maize and Blue Review. When you get there, tell them the Good Afternoon Michigan Football pod sent you. Like that. If you're watching this, smash that like button. That's always appreciated. If you're listening to the pod, any comment that you make, give your honest assessment. This guy doesn't know about college football. I don't know why you would write that, but whatever you think. I like somebody else's pod better. Leave a comment. 5-star ratings, just like 5-star players. They don't always work out, but the 5-star ratings on the pod are really appreciated. So thanks so much for anybody that leaves a comment. Thanks for watching. All those things. What I'm basically saying is just thank you. And I will see you Friday right here on this very feed, and then Saturday after the game. Until then, everybody have themselves a great day. Bye.